You have ideas every day, powerful ones, ideas that could improve your life, your career, your income, your health, your relationships, ideas that feel exciting the moment they appear in your mind. But most of those ideas never turn into action. They stay in your head. They become maybe tomorrow. They become I'll start next week. They become I need to plan more. They become I'm not ready yet. And eventually, they disappear. This is one of the biggest hidden problems in modern life, the gap between thinking and doing. Most people think a lot, plan a lot, research a lot, and talk a lot, but they act very little. And the truth is simple. Ideas don't change your life. Action does. The difference between people who succeed and people who stay stuck is not intelligence, it's not talent, it's not luck, it's speed of action. Successful people have trained themselves to convert thoughts into movement almost instantly, as they don't let ideas sit in their mind for weeks. They don't overthink every step. They don't wait for perfect timing. They move. They take the first step immediately, and that single ability at turning thoughts into instant action is one of the most powerful success skills you can ever develop. But here's something important that most people don't understand. Taking action is not just about discipline, it's about how your brain works. Your brain is designed to protect you, not to make you successful. Whenever you think about doing something new, starting a project, speaking up in a meeting, launching a business, going to the gym, learning a skill, your brain immediately begins scanning for risk. Or it asks questions like, what if this fails? What if people judge me? What if I'm not good enough? What if this wastes time? Within seconds, hesitation appears, then doubt appears, then procrastination quietly takes control. This process happens so quickly that most people don't even notice it. They just feel unmotivated or not ready yet. But what's really happening is that their brain has already talked them out of action. And the longer a thought stays in your mind without action, the weaker it becomes. Energy fades, motivation fades, confidence fades, until the idea disappears completely. Think about how many opportunities in your life started as small thoughts. A business idea, a creative project, a fitness goal, a conversation you wanted to have, a skill you wanted to learn. Do you know how many of those thoughts turned into real action? And how many of them stayed trapped inside your head? The uncomfortable truth is this: most people don't fail because they lack ideas. They fail because they never act on them fast enough. Speed of execution is one of the biggest competitive advantages in the world today. In business, the person who tests an idea today beats the person who plans for 6 months. In personal growth, the person who takes a small step today improves faster than the person who waits for the perfect system. In creativity, the person who creates imperfect work today becomes better than the person who waits for perfect inspiration. Action creates clarity. Waiting creates doubt. The more you act, the more confident you become. The more you delay, the more uncertain you feel. But here's the good news. Turning thoughts into action is a trainable skill. You can literally reprogram your brain to respond differently to ideas. Instead of hesitation, you develop movement. Instead of overthinking, you develop momentum. Instead of procrastination, you develop execution. Imagine what your life would look like if every productive thought triggered action. When you think about exercising, you start immediately. When you get a business idea, you begin testing it the same day. When you think about learning something new, you open the first lesson right away. When you realize something needs to change in your life, you take the first step without delay. Your life would move forward at a completely different speed. You would accomplish in 1 year what most people take 5 years to do. Why? Because success rarely comes from giant breakthroughs. It comes from thousands of small actions executed quickly and consistently. This is why action takers dominate every field. Entrepreneurs who build companies, athletes who break records, creators who produce massive amounts of work, leaders who move organizations forward, they don't just think differently, they act faster. They have built systems that eliminate hesitation. And the powerful truth is this: you don't need more motivation. You don't need perfect confidence. You don't need the perfect plan. You only need to shorten the distance between thinking and doing. In this guide, you will learn exactly how to do that. You will understand why your brain resists action. You will discover techniques that instantly break procrastination. And you will learn how to create momentum even when you feel unmotivated. You will develop systems that make action automatic. Because once you master this skill, something incredible happens. Ideas stop being temporary thoughts. They start becoming real outcomes. Goals stop feeling distant. They start becoming daily progress. And your life begins to move forward faster than ever before. Everything changes the moment you stop collecting ideas and start executing them immediately. This is the power of learning how to turn thoughts into instant action. Chapter 1. The dangerous gap between thinking and doing. Every human being has ideas. Some ideas are small and simple. Others are powerful enough to completely change a person's life. In fact, almost every major invention, business, or breakthrough in history started with a single thought in someone's mind. But there is a massive difference between having an idea and turning that idea into reality. That difference is called action. Most people live inside their thoughts. They think about things they want to do. They imagine goals. They picture the life they would love to have. They visualize success, freedom, and achievement. But after the thinking ends, nothing happens. The idea stays inside their mind. Days pass, weeks pass, sometimes years pass, and the idea slowly fades away. This is one of the most dangerous patterns in modern life, the habit of thinking without acting. The truth is that the world is full of people who have brilliant ideas but never execute them. And at the same time, there are people with average ideas who build incredible results simply because they take action quickly. Execution beats imagination almost every time. If you study successful entrepreneurs, creators, innovators, and leaders, you will notice a common trait. They do not wait too long after an idea appears. They move quickly, they test ideas immediately. They start small projects without waiting for perfect conditions. In other words, they have learned how to turn thoughts into instant action. This skill alone can transform your life. But to understand why this skill matters so much, we need to look at the hidden force that stops most people from acting. That force is hesitation. Hesitation is the short moment between thinking about doing something and actually doing it. It may last only a few seconds, but those seconds can determine whether you move forward or stay stuck. For example, imagine that you suddenly have the thought to start exercising. For a moment, the idea feels exciting. You imagine becoming stronger, healthier, and more energetic. But then hesitation begins. Your brain starts asking questions. Maybe I should start tomorrow. I'm too tired today. I don't have the right equipment. I should research workout plans first. Within seconds, the original excitement disappears. The idea is replaced with delay. This same process happens in many areas of life. You think about learning a new skill. You think about starting a business. You think about writing a book. You think about creating something meaningful. But instead of moving immediately, your brain shifts into analysis mode. You start imagining problems before they even exist. And the longer you think, the more complicated the task appears. This is why many people feel overwhelmed by their own goals. They are not overwhelmed by real work. They are overwhelmed by imaginary obstacles created by overthinking. Action is the only thing that breaks this cycle. When you act, even in a small way, something powerful happens. Your brain shifts from imagining problems to solving real ones. Instead of wondering what might happen, you begin discovering what actually works. Action creates feedback. Feedback creates learning. Learning creates improvement. This process cannot start until you take the first step. Many people believe they need motivation before they act, but in reality, motivation often comes after action. Think about a time when you forced yourself to begin a task, even though you did not feel like doing it. Maybe it was studying, cleaning, exercising, or working on a project. At first, starting felt difficult, but once you were in the middle of the task, it became easier to continue. This happens because action generates momentum. Momentum is a powerful psychological force. When you are already moving, it takes less energy to keep moving. But when you are standing still, starting requires effort. This is why the ability to start quickly is so important. It allows you to bypass the heavy resistance that exists before action begins. Another reason people fail to act is that they wait for perfect conditions. They want the perfect plan, the perfect timing, the perfect level of confidence. But perfection rarely appears. If you study people who achieve extraordinary results, you will discover that they rarely begin with perfect plans. They begin with imperfect action. They try something small. They observe the result. They adjust their strategy. Then they try again. This process repeats again and again. Over time, these small experiments produce massive improvements, but none of it would happen without the first action. Imagine two people who both have the same idea for a project. The first person spends months researching and planning. They read books, watch videos, and collect information. They tell themselves they are preparing. The second person spends only a short time planning and then immediately begins experimenting. After 6 months, which person will have more real progress? Almost always, it will be the second person. Not because their idea was better, but because they turned thinking into action faster. Speed of action is a powerful advantage in life. It allows you to learn faster. It allows you to adapt faster. It allows you to build experience while others are still thinking. This does not mean you should act recklessly or without thought. It simply means you should shorten the distance between thinking and doing. Instead of spending weeks inside your mind, take a small step into the real world. Send the message, write the first page, record the first video, test the first idea. These actions may feel small, but they create a powerful shift in your mindset. You stop being someone who only imagines possibilities. You become someone who executes. And once you build this habit, everything begins to change. Ideas stop being temporary thoughts. They start becoming real results. Dreams stop feeling distant. They start turning into daily progress. The gap between thinking and doing begins to shrink. And as that gap shrinks, your life begins to move forward at a completely different speed. This is why mastering the skill of instant action is so important. It is not just about productivity, it is about transforming your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who wants to do things. You become someone who does things. And that difference is powerful enough to reshape your entire future. Chapter 2: Understanding why your brain delays action. If turning thoughts into action is so powerful, an important question naturally appears. Why do most people struggle to do it? Why do intelligent, capable, ambitious individuals still delay things they know would improve their lives? Why do people postpone exercise, delay projects, avoid important conversations, and wait months or years to start ideas they genuinely care about? The answer lies deep inside the human brain. Your brain was not originally designed to make you successful, productive, or ambitious. It was designed for one primary purpose: survival. Thousands of years ago, humans lived in environments filled with real physical dangers. There were predators, hostile weather conditions, food shortages, and many other threats that required careful decision-making. In that world, acting too quickly could be dangerous. If someone ran into an unknown area without thinking, they might encounter a predator. If they ate unfamiliar food without caution, it might be poisonous. And because of this, the human brain evolved systems that encourage hesitation whenever uncertainty appears. These systems were incredibly useful in ancient environments, but in modern life they often work against us. Today, most of our challenges are not life-threatening. They are social, professional, or personal challenges like starting a project, applying for a job, speaking in public, or launching a business idea. But your brain does not always distinguish between physical danger and psychological discomfort. To your brain, uncertainty still feels risky. So whenever you think about doing something new or challenging, a protective mechanism activates. This mechanism slows you down. It generates doubts, it produces hesitation, and if you are not aware of it, it can quietly push you toward procrastination. Neither one of the most powerful forces behind delayed action is fear of failure. Failure can trigger feelings of embarrassment, disappointment, and self-doubt. Your brain wants to avoid those emotions. So when you think about starting something difficult, your brain may suggest that waiting is safer. It might tell you, you should learn more first. You're not ready yet. What if it doesn't work? What will people think? These thoughts feel logical and responsible, but very often they are simply the brain's way of protecting you from discomfort. Another major reason people delay action is perfectionism. Perfectionism appears positive on the surface. It sounds like a commitment to high standards, but perfectionism can easily become a trap. When someone believes their work must be perfect before it is shared or executed, they delay starting. They keep adjusting their plans, they keep refining ideas, they keep researching, and because perfection is impossible, they never feel ready to act. The truth is that most successful projects begin imperfectly. Early versions of ideas are usually messy, incomplete, and flawed, but those imperfect beginnings are essential. They allow learning to begin. Action creates feedback. Feedback creates improvement. Without action, improvement cannot happen. Another psychological barrier to action is something called decision fatigue. Every day, your brain makes thousands of decisions. Some are small choices like what to eat or what to wear. Others are larger decisions involving work, finances, relationships, and responsibilities. Each decision consumes a small amount of mental energy. As the day progresses, and this energy becomes depleted. When mental energy is low, your brain naturally looks for the easiest option available, and the easiest option is often doing nothing. This is why people frequently postpone important tasks until later. Unfortunately, later often becomes tomorrow, next week, or next month. Understanding decision fatigue can help you design your life differently. For example, many highly productive people schedule their most important work early in the day. This is when their mental energy is highest. They also simplify daily routines so they spend less energy on unnecessary decisions. Another powerful force that delays action is uncertainty. Human beings naturally prefer clear outcomes. When the result of an action is predictable, it feels safe. But when outcomes are unclear, hesitation appears. Starting a new business is uncertain. Learning a new skill is uncertain. Creating something original is uncertain. You cannot fully predict how things will turn out. For many people, this uncertainty becomes a reason to delay. But uncertainty is actually a normal part of growth. Every new opportunity contains unknown elements. People who move forward in life are not people who eliminate uncertainty. They are people who act despite uncertainty. They accept that they will not have perfect information. Instead of waiting for certainty, they gather information through action. Action transforms uncertainty into experience. Experience produces knowledge. Knowledge produces confidence. This is the natural progression of growth. Another factor that slows action is comfort addiction. Modern life offers endless opportunities for comfort and distraction. Entertainment, social media, streaming platforms, and constant digital stimulation make it easy to avoid challenging tasks. Whenever a task feels difficult, the brain searches for easier alternatives. Checking a phone feels easier than writing a report. Watching videos feels easier than starting a project. Scrolling through social media feels easier than exercising. These small choices seem harmless, but over time they build a powerful habit of avoidance. The brain becomes conditioned to seek immediate comfort instead of long-term progress. Breaking this habit requires awareness. You must recognize when your brain is trying to redirect you toward comfort instead of growth. Then you must deliberately choose action. This does not mean eliminating comfort from your life. Rest and relaxation are important, but they should be intentional, not automatic reactions to difficulty. Once you understand how your brain creates resistance, something powerful happens. You stop interpreting hesitation as a personal weakness. Instead, you recognize it as a natural mental process. And when you recognize a pattern, you gain the ability to interrupt it. You can develop strategies that move you from thinking into action more quickly. You can build systems that make action easier than delay. You can train your mind to respond to ideas with movement instead of hesitation. This transformation does not happen overnight, but with practice, the gap between thought and action becomes smaller and smaller, and as that gap shrinks, your productivity, creativity, and progress begin to accelerate. Ideas stop sitting quietly in your mind. They begin turning into real-world results, and that is the foundation of a life driven by action rather than intention. Chapter 3. The 5-second window of action. One of the most powerful discoveries about human behavior is that there is a very small window of time between a thought and hesitation. This window is incredibly short, but it determines whether an idea turns into action or disappears into delay. When a productive thought first appears in your mind, it often comes with a burst of energy. This is the moment when motivation feels strongest. For a brief period, your brain is open to movement. You feel capable of starting. The idea feels exciting rather than difficult. But if you wait too long, something begins to change, and your brain starts producing resistance. This resistance does not appear suddenly. It begins quietly with small thoughts that seem reasonable. You might tell yourself, "I should probably start tomorrow. I need to think about this more. I'm too tired right now. I should prepare better before I begin." These thoughts feel logical, but they are often just excuses created by the brain to avoid discomfort. The longer you allow these thoughts to continue, the stronger the resistance becomes. Within a short period of time, the motivation you felt at the beginning disappears completely. This is why the moment immediately after an idea appears is so important. Psychologists have observed that hesitation usually begins within just a few seconds. During those few seconds, the brain is deciding whether the idea will lead to action or whether it will be pushed aside. This small period of time can be called the action window. If you act during this window, you bypass hesitation. If you wait too long, hesitation takes control. This simple insight explains why many successful people have a habit of acting quickly. They understand that waiting rarely improves motivation. In fact, waiting usually destroys it. When you act immediately, you stop the brain from building arguments against action. You move before resistance has time to grow. Imagine waking up in the morning and having the thought that you should exercise. At that moment, the idea feels positive. You imagine feeling healthier, stronger, and more energetic. But if you remain in bed thinking about it, your brain quickly begins producing reasons not to move. "I slept badly. It's too early. I'll do it later." Within seconds, the desire to exercise fades. But if you stand up immediately when the thought appears, something different happens. You move before the excuses begin. Once you are standing, it becomes easier to continue. Once you begin the workout, continuing becomes even easier. This pattern shows that starting is the most difficult part of almost any task. Beginning requires the greatest amount of mental energy, But once the action has started, momentum begins to build. Momentum is a powerful psychological force. When you are already moving, your brain prefers to continue moving. Think of pushing a heavy object across the floor. The first push requires the most effort, but once the object starts sliding, maintaining movement requires much less force. Human motivation works in a similar way. The hardest part is starting. Once movement begins, the brain shifts into a different mode. Instead of resisting the activity, it begins supporting it. This is why immediate action is so effective. It pushes you past the difficult starting phase before hesitation has time to grow. Another reason quick action is powerful is that it prevents overanalysis. When people wait before acting, their minds begin creating complicated scenarios. They imagine obstacles that may never exist. For example, someone who wants to start a small business might begin thinking about taxes, competition, long-term strategy, financial risk, and dozens of other complex factors. These thoughts create overwhelm. The person feels as if the project is too large to begin. But if that same person simply starts by testing one small idea, selling a product, offering a service, or creating a simple prototype, they immediately move from imagination to reality. Reality provides feedback. Feedback provides learning. Learning provides improvement. None of these things can happen without action. Immediate action also builds confidence over time. Every time you act quickly on an idea, you reinforce a mental pattern. Your brain begins associating thoughts with movement instead of hesitation. This pattern gradually becomes automatic. Instead of needing large amounts of motivation, you develop a natural habit of starting quickly. This habit can transform your productivity and creativity. People who build successful careers in creative fields often produce far more work than others. They do not wait for perfect inspiration. They begin quickly and allow the work to evolve through action. Writers write regularly. Entrepreneurs test ideas regularly. Artists create regularly. Their secret is not endless thinking. Their secret is consistent action. Another important benefit of acting quickly is that it reduces fear. Fear often grows when we spend too much time imagining future outcomes. When we imagine failure repeatedly, the idea of starting begins to feel dangerous. But when we take action immediately, we shift our focus from imagined problems to real tasks. Real tasks are usually simpler than imagined ones. Once you begin working, the fear that existed in your mind often disappears. You become focused on the activity itself instead of the possible outcomes. Over time, this pattern changes your relationship with fear. You begin to see fear as a signal to move rather than a reason to stop. This shift is extremely powerful. When many of the most successful people in the world are not fearless, they simply act before fear has time to grow. They recognize that hesitation increases fear while action reduces it. If you want to strengthen your ability to act quickly, you can practice a simple habit. Whenever you have a productive thought, translate it into a physical movement immediately. Stand up, open the document, pick up the phone, start the first step. The action does not need to be large, it only needs to exist. Even a small movement signals to your brain that the process has begun. Once the process has started, continuing becomes much easier. Over time, this habit trains your mind to respond differently to ideas. Instead of thinking endlessly about what you should do, you begin doing it. Instead of delaying progress, you begin creating it. Instead of collecting ideas, you begin executing them. This transformation changes how you see yourself. You stop identifying as someone who plans to do things someday. You begin identifying as someone who takes action immediately. And once this identity forms, your behavior begins to align with it naturally. Ideas no longer remain trapped inside your mind. They begin turning into real progress. The distance between thinking and doing becomes smaller and smaller. And as that distance shrinks, your ability to create results grows faster than ever before. The moment you learn to use that small window between thought and hesitation, is you unlock one of the most powerful skills in personal growth. You stop waiting for motivation. You start creating momentum. And that momentum can carry you further than you ever imagined. Chapter 4. The Power of Micro-Actions. One of the biggest reasons people fail to take action is not laziness, lack of intelligence, or lack of ambition. The real reason is much simpler. The task feels too big. When the human brain sees a task that looks large, complicated, or time-consuming, it automatically reacts with resistance. This resistance appears as procrastination, distraction, or avoidance. Instead of starting the task, the brain searches for easier activities. You may recognize this pattern in your own life. You plan to write a book, but the idea of writing hundreds of pages feels overwhelming. You want to start exercising, but imagining long workouts every day feels exhausting. You want to build a business, but thinking about everything involved, marketing, finances, products, customers, feels too complicated. As a result, the brain delays the task. You tell yourself you will start later. Later becomes tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week. Eventually, the goal fades into the background of your life. This is why understanding the concept of micro-actions is so important. Micro-actions are extremely small steps that move you toward your goal. They are intentionally simple and easy to start. Instead of focusing on the entire journey, you focus only on the next tiny step. This approach completely changes how the brain perceives a task. When a task is large, the brain feels overwhelmed. When a task is small, the brain feels capable. For example, imagine someone who wants to write a book. If they focus on writing 300 pages, the project feels intimidating. The brain immediately begins producing excuses. I don't have time. I'm not a good writer. I don't know where to start. But if the person focuses on writing just one paragraph, the task becomes easy. Writing a paragraph requires only a few minutes. Anyone can begin. Once that paragraph is written, something interesting happens. The brain experiences progress. Progress triggers a sense of satisfaction. That satisfaction often leads to continued action. The person may write another paragraph, then another. Soon, they may write an entire page. The key insight here is that motivation often follows action, not the other way around. Many people wait until they feel motivated before they start working. But motivation frequently appears after the work begins. Micro-actions allow you to start before motivation appears. Once action begins, motivation grows naturally. Another powerful benefit of micro-actions is that they eliminate the fear of failure. Large projects create pressure. When people imagine a huge goal, they worry about making mistakes, but small actions feel safe. If you write one paragraph and it is not perfect, it does not feel like a disaster. You can simply improve it later. This freedom encourages experimentation. Experimentation leads to learning. Learning leads to improvement. Micro-actions also build consistency. Consistency is one of the most powerful forces in personal development. Small actions repeated daily create massive long-term results. For example, I'd imagine someone who decides to read 10 pages of a book every day. 10 pages may not sound impressive, but over the course of a year, that person would read more than 3,000 pages. That is the equivalent of many books. Now imagine someone who writes just one page every day. At the end of a year, they would have written an entire book. The same principle applies to exercise. Someone who does 15 minutes of physical activity every day will become significantly healthier over time. These results are not created by sudden bursts of effort. They are created by small actions repeated consistently. Another reason micro-actions work so well is that they help you overcome psychological resistance. When the brain faces a large task, it tries to avoid it. But when the task is extremely small, avoidance becomes difficult. And for example, telling yourself to work for 5 minutes feels manageable. Once you begin working for 5 minutes, you often continue longer. Many people discover that the hardest part of working is simply starting. Once the process begins, the mind naturally adjusts. This is why many successful individuals use the strategy of breaking big goals into very small pieces. They focus only on the next step, not the entire journey, just the next step. This approach keeps progress moving forward without creating mental overwhelm. Another powerful aspect of micro-actions is that they build confidence. Every time you complete a small step, you prove to yourself that you are capable of taking action. These small victories accumulate. Over time, they change how you see yourself. You stop thinking of yourself as someone who procrastinates. You begin thinking of yourself as someone who takes consistent action. This identity shift is extremely important. When your identity changes, your behavior naturally follows. You no longer need to force yourself to work. Action becomes part of who you are. Micro-actions also create momentum. Momentum is one of the most valuable forces in productivity. When you are already moving, it becomes easier to continue moving. Think about pushing a bicycle. The first push requires effort, but once the bicycle starts rolling, it becomes easier to keep it moving. The same principle applies to work. The first step feels difficult, but after that step, continuing feels easier. Micro-actions create that first movement. They start the process. Once the process has started, momentum builds naturally. Another advantage of micro-actions is that they reduce stress. When people think about large goals, they often feel pressure to complete everything quickly. This pressure creates anxiety, but when you focus only on the next small step, the pressure disappears. You simply complete one action at a time. This calm approach makes it easier to stay consistent. Consistency is what ultimately produces results. Many of the most successful people in the world follow this philosophy. They do not wait for huge bursts of inspiration. They rely on daily habits and small actions. Over time, those actions accumulate into extraordinary achievements. If you want to apply this principle in your life, I start by asking yourself a simple question whenever you face a large task. What is the smallest step I can take right now? Not tomorrow, not later, right now. Maybe it is opening a document, maybe it is writing one sentence, maybe it is making a phone call, maybe it is doing 5 minutes of work. That small step may not feel impressive, but it has tremendous power, because the moment you take that step, you break the cycle of hesitation. You move from thinking into action. And once action begins, progress becomes inevitable. Micro-actions prove an important truth about success. Extraordinary results are not created by dramatic moments of effort. They are created by small actions performed consistently over time. When you learn to embrace small beginnings, you remove the barriers that normally stop people from acting. And instead of waiting for the perfect moment, you start immediately. Instead of being overwhelmed by the entire journey, you focus on the next step. And step by step, those small actions begin transforming your life. Because progress does not require perfection, it only requires movement. Chapter 5. Escaping the trap of overthinking. Overthinking is one of the most common barriers between ideas and action. Many people believe they are being responsible, careful, or intelligent when they spend a long time thinking about a decision, but in reality, excessive thinking often becomes a hidden form of procrastination. Overthinking occurs when the brain continues analyzing a situation long after enough information has already been gathered. Instead of moving forward, the mind keeps searching for more certainty. At first, this process feels productive. You tell yourself that you are planning carefully. You convince yourself that more thinking will lead to a better result. But slowly, something changes. The thinking stops being useful. Instead of creating clarity, it creates confusion. Instead of building confidence, it builds doubt. Instead of helping you act, it keeps you stuck. The reason this happens is simple. The human brain prefers certainty. When a situation contains uncertainty, the brain tries to reduce that uncertainty by analyzing every possible outcome. But the future is unpredictable. No matter how much you think about a situation, you will never have complete information. There will always be unknown factors. There will always be risks. There will always be possibilities that cannot be predicted. And this means that overthinking can never truly eliminate uncertainty. It only delays action. Imagine someone who wants to start a new business. At first, they feel excited about the idea. They imagine creating something valuable, earning income, and building independence. But before they take action, they decide to think carefully about every possible detail. They begin researching markets, competitors, strategies, and financial risks. Research is useful, but without limits, it becomes endless. After a while, new questions appear. What if the idea fails? What if customers are not interested? What if competitors are stronger? What if I lose money? Each question leads to more thinking. Soon, the original excitement disappears, replaced by anxiety and doubt. Eventually, the person decides to wait until they feel more certain. But that certainty never arrives. The idea remains unfinished. This pattern happens in many areas of life. People overthink relationships, career decisions, creative projects, and personal goals. They imagine the perfect plan. They imagine the perfect timing. They imagine the perfect level of preparation. But perfection rarely appears. And while they are thinking, time continues moving forward. Opportunities pass. Ideas fade. Energy disappears. The truth is that most successful projects were not perfectly planned before they started. They evolved through action. Action provides feedback. Feedback reveals what works and what does not. This feedback is something thinking alone can never produce. For example, someone who wants to become a writer might spend months thinking about what to write. They might research writing techniques, storytelling structures, and publishing strategies. But until they actually begin writing, none of that knowledge turns into skill. Writing improves through writing, not through endless thinking about writing. The same principle applies to almost every field. Entrepreneurs learn by launching small ideas. Artists improve by creating many pieces of work. Athletes grow stronger through training. Action creates experience. Experience creates understanding. Understanding creates mastery. Thinking alone cannot complete this process. One of the most effective ways to escape overthinking is by limiting the time you allow yourself to think. Instead of analyzing a situation indefinitely, set a clear boundary. Give yourself a specific amount of time to plan. For example, 10 minutes to brainstorm ideas, 20 minutes to outline a project, 30 minutes to research a decision. When that time is finished, action begins. This rule forces your brain to focus. It prevents thinking from turning into endless delay. Another helpful strategy is writing your thoughts down. When ideas stay inside your mind, they often feel chaotic and overwhelming. Thoughts bounce from one possibility to another, but when you write them down, they become organized. Writing allows you to see the situation clearly. You can separate real problems from imagined fears. Clarity reduces anxiety, and when anxiety decreases, action becomes easier. Another important step in escaping overthinking is accepting imperfection. Many people overthink because they want everything to be perfect before they start. They want the perfect plan, the perfect idea, the perfect strategy. But perfection is an illusion. Every successful project begins with mistakes. Early attempts are rarely impressive. They are rough, incomplete, and flawed. But those early attempts are essential. They provide the information needed for improvement. Without those imperfect beginnings, progress cannot happen. Think of a sculptor creating a statue. The first piece of stone does not look like a masterpiece. It looks rough and unfinished, but with each small adjustment, the sculpture begins to take shape. Progress happens gradually. The same process occurs in personal growth. Your first attempt may not be perfect, but it does not need to be. It only needs to exist. Another powerful way to break the habit of overthinking is to focus on action-based questions instead of theoretical questions. Overthinking questions sound like this. What if this fails? What if people judge me? What if the plan is wrong? These questions create fear. Action-based questions sound different. What is the first step I can take? What small action can I do today? What experiment can I try? These questions direct your attention toward movement. They turn ideas into behavior. Once behavior begins, thinking becomes more productive because it is connected to real experience. Overthinking also disappears when you build habits of consistent action. When action becomes part of your daily routine, you stop needing long periods of mental preparation. You simply begin. Writers write, entrepreneurs build, our athletes train. Action becomes normal. Thinking becomes a tool that supports action rather than replacing it. This balance is important. Thinking has value when it leads to better decisions, but thinking loses its value when it prevents movement. The goal is not to eliminate thinking. The goal is to prevent thinking from becoming a prison. When you learn to escape the trap of overthinking, something remarkable happens. Your ideas start turning into experiments. Your plans start turning into progress. Your goals start turning into real experiences. Instead of living inside your mind, you begin interacting with the real world. And in the real world, progress happens through action, not through endless thought. When you master this shift from thinking endlessly to acting consistently, you unlock one of the most powerful skills for personal growth. Because the people who move forward in life are not the people who think the most. They are the people who act before their thoughts become obstacles. Chapter 6. Building momentum. Through consistent action. One of the most powerful forces that drives success is momentum. Momentum is the energy that builds when you take action repeatedly over time. It is the feeling of progress that makes tasks easier the more you continue doing them. When momentum is present, productivity feels natural and progress feels almost automatic. However, momentum does not appear instantly. It begins small, often with a single action. That first action might feel difficult, uncomfortable, or even insignificant. But once it is taken, something begins to shift inside your mind. Your brain starts recognizing that movement has begun. Many people struggle not because they are incapable of doing great work, but because they never reach the point where momentum begins. They remain stuck in the starting phase, where resistance is strongest. Starting is hard because it requires energy without immediate reward. Your brain is unsure whether the effort will produce results, so it hesitates. But once you start and continue acting, your brain begins to see evidence of progress. That evidence changes your mindset. Momentum is similar to pushing a heavy object. The first push requires a large amount of effort. You must overcome the object's initial resistance. But once the object starts moving, each additional push becomes easier. Eventually, the object rolls with far less effort. Human productivity works in the same way. The hardest moment is the beginning. Once movement starts, maintaining that movement becomes easier. For example, imagine someone who decides to start exercising regularly. The first workout might feel extremely difficult. The body is not used to the movement. The mind searches for excuses. The person might feel tempted to quit after only a few minutes. But if they continue exercising for several days, something begins to change. The body adapts. The mind becomes familiar with the routine. The activity begins to feel less intimidating. After a few weeks, exercise may even start to feel enjoyable. What once required discipline now feels natural. This transformation is momentum at work. Momentum turns effort into habit. Another example can be seen in creative work. A writer who has not written for months may struggle to begin a new piece of writing. The blank page feels intimidating. Ideas seem unclear. But once the writer begins writing every day, the process becomes smoother. Ideas start flowing more easily. Writing sessions become longer and more productive. Again, this is momentum. Momentum removes friction. The key to building momentum is consistency. Consistency means taking action regularly, even when motivation is low. Many people believe they should work only when they feel inspired, but inspiration is unpredictable. If you rely on inspiration, your progress will always be inconsistent. Momentum is built through routine. Routine means that action happens regardless of mood. You act when you feel motivated. Because you act when you feel tired. You act when you feel uncertain. The repeated behavior trains your brain to expect action. Over time, the behavior becomes automatic. This is how habits form. Habits are powerful because they reduce the amount of mental energy required to act. When something becomes a habit, you no longer debate whether you should do it. You simply do it. Think about brushing your teeth. You probably do not spend time deciding whether you should brush your teeth each morning. It is part of your routine. The same principle can apply to productive behaviors. Writing can become a habit. Exercising can become a habit. Learning can become a habit. Building a business can become a habit. The key is repetition. Another important aspect of momentum is protecting it. Once momentum begins, you must be careful not to interrupt it unnecessarily. Long breaks can slow or even stop the progress you have built. For example, someone who exercises daily may feel strong momentum, but if they stop for several weeks, restarting the habit can feel difficult again. The same happens in learning and creative work. When you maintain consistent activity, progress continues smoothly. But long interruptions force you to restart the momentum-building process. This does not mean you should never rest. Rest is important for health and recovery, but rest should be planned rather than accidental. Another powerful way to build momentum is by tracking progress. When you track your actions, you create visible proof of your consistency. This proof reinforces your motivation. For example, if you record each day that you exercise, and you can see how many days you have completed, that record becomes something you want to protect. Breaking the streak feels difficult. As a result, you continue acting. Tracking progress transforms abstract goals into visible achievements. Another important principle is celebrating small wins. Many people ignore small progress because they are focused only on large results. But large results are built from many small steps. When you acknowledge those steps, you strengthen your motivation. For example, finishing a single page of writing is a small victory. Completing a workout is a small victory. Learning a new concept is a small victory. Each small victory reinforces your belief that progress is happening. That belief strengthens momentum. Momentum also increases confidence. When you see yourself taking consistent action, you begin to trust your ability to move forward. This trust changes how you approach challenges. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by large goals, you focus on the next step. You know that consistent action will eventually lead to results. Confidence built through action is far stronger than confidence built through positive thinking alone. Positive thinking can encourage you temporarily, but real confidence comes from evidence. Action creates that evidence. Every action proves that you are capable of progress. Over time, these proofs accumulate. They form a new self-image. You stop seeing yourself as someone who struggles to act. You begin seeing yourself as someone who consistently moves forward. This identity shift is extremely powerful. Once you believe you are a person of action, your behavior begins to align with that belief. Momentum is not something reserved for extraordinary people. Anyone can build it. The process is simple, but it requires patience. Start with small actions. Repeat them daily. Protect your consistency. Celebrate progress. Continue moving forward. At first, the progress may feel slow, but momentum grows quietly. Over time, the effort required to continue becomes smaller, action becomes easier, productivity becomes natural, and the progress you once struggled to achieve begins happening almost automatically. Momentum turns small beginnings into powerful results. It transforms effort into habit, and once it is established, It becomes one of the strongest forces driving your success. Chapter 7. Turning fear into forward motion. Fear is one of the most common reasons people hesitate before acting. It can take many forms: fear of failure, fear of criticism, fear of making the wrong choice, fear of embarrassment. Every one of these fears produces the same effect: a pause, a delay, a withdrawal from action. Yet fear is not inherently negative. It is a signal, a piece of information, and if managed correctly, it can be converted into forward motion rather than paralysis. The first step in turning fear into action is awareness. You must recognize the feeling the moment it appears. Fear often masquerades as rational thinking. I need more time to prepare, or what if I fail? These thoughts feel reasonable, but underneath them is anxiety. Acknowledging fear allows you to separate the emotion from your decision-making. Once you see that fear is present, but it does not have to dictate your behavior. Once you are aware of fear, the next step is normalization. Understand that fear is a natural part of growth. Every person who has achieved something significant has faced fear. Entrepreneurs experience fear when launching new ventures. Writers feel fear when publishing ideas. Leaders encounter fear when making decisions that affect others. Fear is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that you are operating at the edge of your comfort zone, where progress occurs. The third step is reframing fear as a signal to act. Instead of interpreting fear as a reason to stop, see it as a sign that the action is meaningful. Fear indicates that the action matters. The brain produces fear when it anticipates risk, and meaningful actions inherently involve risk. And by reframing fear in this way, you change the narrative from avoidance to purpose-driven movement. One practical technique to convert fear into action is incremental exposure. Break the feared activity into smaller steps. Start with a tiny action that feels manageable. If you fear public speaking, begin by speaking to a mirror, then to a small group of friends, then to a larger audience. Each successful step builds confidence and reduces the intensity of fear. Momentum grows as each small success accumulates, transforming fear into a motivating force. Another critical aspect is preparation without over-planning. Fear often emerges from uncertainty. The unknown triggers anxiety. Thoughtful preparation reduces unknowns and builds competence, but excessive planning without execution strengthens fear. Action combined with adequate preparation creates a balance. You move forward while managing risk. Visualization is another powerful tool. Visualize the process of acting despite fear, rather than visualizing only the negative outcomes. Imagine yourself beginning the task, encountering difficulties, and navigating them successfully. This mental rehearsal primes your brain to handle challenges. The visualization becomes a rehearsal for action, reducing the intensity of fear when you act. Accountability also plays a significant role. When you commit to a visible action, sharing your goal with someone or writing it publicly, you create social and internal pressure to follow through. Fear may still arise, but the combination of personal commitment and social reinforcement increases the likelihood of action. It is essential to understand that fear will never disappear completely. Trying to eliminate it entirely is futile. Even experienced leaders and high achievers experience fear daily. The difference is that they act in spite of it. Fear becomes a companion to action rather than a barrier. Finally, practice reflection. After acting despite fear, take time to observe the results. Often the consequences are far less severe than your mind imagined. You learn that fear overestimates risk and underestimates your capability. This realization reinforces your ability to act in future situations, gradually rewiring your response to fear. In summary, fear is not the enemy. Hesitation is. Fear can serve as a compass, signaling where meaningful action lies. By cultivating awareness, reframing fear as information, taking incremental steps, combining preparation with execution, using visualization, building accountability, and reflecting on outcomes, you transform fear into a tool that propels you forward. Instead of being frozen by fear, you move in its presence. Acting despite fear becomes the defining habit of progress. Chapter 8. Mastering the Art of Single Task. Focus. In an age of constant notifications, endless options, and multitasking demands, one of the most overlooked skills for turning thoughts into action is the ability to focus on a single task. Focus is the mental discipline that allows ideas to move from conception into execution. Without it, even the best intentions are scattered, diluted, and often fail to produce results. Multitasking is a common trap. The human brain cannot truly handle multiple demanding tasks simultaneously. But what we call multitasking is usually rapid task switching. Every switch incurs a cognitive cost. Attention is fragmented, memory suffers, and energy is drained. When you attempt to act on an idea while simultaneously handling other tasks, the action becomes slower, less precise, and less likely to continue. Single task focus solves this problem by directing your mental energy to one idea at a time. The goal is to create a flow state where your attention, skills, and immediate action align seamlessly. Flow is the optimal state of productivity. Time seems to contract, effort feels smooth, and results accumulate rapidly. The first step to mastering single task focus is environmental control. Distractions must be minimized. Close unnecessary tabs, silence notifications, and create a dedicated space for work. Physical and digital clutter competes with your attention, lowering your ability to act on the thought at hand. The brain thrives when input is limited and meaningful. Second, define the next actionable step clearly. Ambiguity slows action because the mind must decide what to do. Instead of aiming to write a report, write the introduction paragraph of the report. Clarity converts vague thoughts into precise movements. Once you know exactly what to do, your mental energy flows directly into execution. Third, implement time-blocked action. Set a fixed period to focus exclusively on the task. For example, commit to 30 to 60 minutes of uninterrupted work on one item. This creates a temporal boundary that encourages deep engagement. During this block, avoid all other tasks, even minor ones. Momentum builds more effectively in continuous stretches than in fragmented attempts. Fourth, use physical anchors to reinforce focus. Small rituals such as preparing a workspace, pouring a cup of coffee, or even a few deep breaths signal to your brain that it is time for action. Anchors condition your mind to associate specific behaviors with the act of starting, making the transition from thought to action smoother. Fifth, embrace progress over perfection. Focusing on one task does not mean you must execute flawlessly. The aim is movement. Single task focus amplifies productivity when combined with the willingness to start imperfectly. Adjustments and improvements can follow, but the primary requirement is that the first action occurs. Sixth, monitor and manage mental fatigue. Even focused attention consumes energy. Recognize when concentration diminishes and schedule short breaks. Pauses allow recovery without losing momentum. The brain functions optimally in cycles. Intense focus, followed by brief rest, leads to sustained action over long periods. Seventh, integrate review and reflection. After completing a single task session, evaluate what worked, what could improve, and how focus can be strengthened for the next session. This feedback loop ensures that each act of attention and action is learning-oriented, gradually increasing efficiency and reducing wasted effort. Eighth, train your mind gradually. Start with shorter focus periods, gradually extending them as your discipline strengthens. Attempting extremely long periods of uninterrupted work too soon may cause frustration and erode motivation. Incremental improvement in focus builds a sustainable habit of deep engagement. Finally, understand that single-task focus creates compounding effects. When thoughts are acted upon efficiently, one completed task often triggers another. Momentum grows naturally, energy is preserved, and confidence strengthens. The combination of clarity, environmental control, time blocking, physical anchors, acceptance of imperfection, fatigue management, reflection, and gradual discipline forms a robust system for converting thoughts into meaningful action. By mastering single-task focus, you create the conditions under which ideas are not only generated, but fully realized. You reduce friction, prevent procrastination, and maximize the impact of every action. The ability to concentrate fully on a single idea transforms potential energy into kinetic achievement, allowing consistent progress in any domain of life. Chapter 9. Designing your environment for action. The environment you inhabit has a profound influence on your ability to convert thoughts into action. Human behavior is not determined solely by willpower or intelligence. It is also shaped by the spaces you occupy, the people you interact with, and the cues embedded in your surroundings. By intentionally designing your environment, you can reduce friction, reinforce productive habits, and create a natural pathway from thought to action. The first principle of environment design is reducing friction for desired behaviors. Every action has an associated cost: time, effort, or mental energy. When costs are high, your brain hesitates, or when costs are low, action flows naturally. For example, if you want to write every morning, placing your notebook and pen within easy reach reduces friction. If the materials are buried in a drawer or digital files are scattered across devices, the brain perceives unnecessary effort, which increases resistance. By simplifying access to the tools and resources needed for action, you lower the threshold for starting. The second principle is eliminating triggers for undesired behaviors. Just as friction can prevent action, environmental cues can subtly encourage distraction. Notifications, clutter, and irrelevant tasks compete for attention. Each cue sends a signal to your brain. Consider this now. Repeated interruptions fragment attention and delay action. By removing or minimizing these cues, you create space for focused effort. And this could mean silencing your phone, decluttering your workspace, or organizing digital files into clear, accessible folders. Third, consider the social environment. Humans are highly influenced by the behaviors, expectations, and norms of the people around them. Associating with individuals who prioritize action, discipline, and consistency naturally encourages similar behavior in yourself. Conversely, environments dominated by procrastination, indecision, or low ambition can suppress your own momentum. This is why high performers often seek mentors, peer groups, or teams that reinforce their desired habits. Social cues act as accelerators or inhibitors, depending on the group's collective behavior. Fourth, incorporate visual cues for action. The brain responds to visual reminders far more powerfully than abstract intentions. In leaving your project materials visible, posting motivational reminders, or keeping a checklist in sight are simple yet effective ways to prompt immediate action. Visual cues reduce reliance on memory and willpower, allowing the brain to respond automatically when an idea arises. Fifth, design your environment with temporal structure in mind. Allocate specific spaces or times for certain activities. A workspace may be designated solely for work, while a reading corner is reserved for learning. By creating spatial and temporal associations, you train your brain to enter the appropriate mode for each type of activity. The brain thrives on predictable patterns. Once a routine is established, initiation of action becomes almost automatic. Sixth, embrace small environmental experiments. change one variable at a time and observe its effect on your productivity. For instance, altering your desk layout, lighting, or chair position can impact energy and focus more than you expect. Testing different configurations allows you to identify which conditions best support immediate action and sustained momentum. Environmental adjustments should be intentional, iterative, and data-driven rather than based on assumptions or aesthetics alone. 7th, consider reducing decision fatigue. Each choice depletes mental energy, and excessive decisions can delay action. Pre-decide elements of your environment and routines to minimize unnecessary choices. For example, prepare your work clothes the night before, keep a structured morning routine, or automate recurring tasks. The less energy spent deciding, the more energy available for meaningful action. 8th, recognize that environments are dynamic. What works today may not work tomorrow. Regularly assess whether your surroundings continue to support your goals. Adjust, reorganize, or remove elements that no longer serve the purpose of promoting immediate action. Continuous refinement ensures that your environment evolves in alignment with your growth, rather than stagnating into inefficiency. Finally, integrate feedback mechanisms into your environment. Track your behavior and results in a visible way. Charts, logs, or journals provide tangible evidence of action and progress. Feedback not only reinforces existing behaviors, but also highlights areas where the environment may be creating unnecessary friction or distraction. Iteratively improving the environment based on real-world outcomes ensures long-term alignment between intention and execution. When your environment is designed strategically, action becomes the path of least resistance. Thoughts no longer linger in uncertainty. Ideas are nudged into movement through carefully arranged cues, reduced friction, and supportive social structures. By shaping the spaces, people, and routines around you, you create a system that transforms intentions into consistent, measurable progress. Environmental design is not about controlling every variable in life. It is about engineering the conditions that naturally favor action over delay. Chapter 10. Creating a system that converts thoughts into action. By the time we reach the final chapter, one principle becomes clear. Isolated techniques like acting immediately, taking micro-actions, managing fear, or designing your environment are powerful, but their full potential emerges only when integrated into a systematic approach. A system is a framework that links all these principles together, creating predictable pathways for ideas to transform into results. Without a system, action is sporadic, dependent on fleeting motivation or energy. With a system, action becomes consistent, automatic, and increasingly effective. The first step in creating such a system is mapping your goals and processes. Identify the domains of your life where you want to convert thought into action: career, personal development, health, relationships, or creativity. Within each domain, break down broad goals into actionable steps. For instance, write a book becomes draft 1 page a day, or improve fitness becomes exercise 20 minutes daily. Mapping actions at this granular level creates clarity and reduces cognitive load. Your brain can focus on execution rather than endlessly deliberating over what to do next. Second, implement action triggers. Triggers are cues, behavioral, environmental, or temporal, that prompt immediate action. This might be a reminder on your phone, a visual cue on your desk, or a specific time of day you commit to a task. Triggers reduce the reliance on willpower. When a thought appears, the trigger channels it into movement. Over time, repeated association strengthens the automatic connection between idea and action. Third, adopt feedback loops. Systems thrive when there is continuous information about performance. Track your progress meticulously. Note what actions were taken, what results followed, and which obstacles emerged. Feedback creates a clear picture of cause and effect, allowing you to refine your methods. Without feedback, effort can be misdirected. You may act consistently but fail to learn whether those actions produce meaningful outcomes. Feedback turns raw activity into informed action, closing the loop between thought, execution, and improvement. Fourth, prioritize actions based on impact. Not all steps carry equal weight. Some actions produce exponential results, while others have marginal effects. A robust system identifies the high-leverage activities, the 20% of actions that generate 80% of result. Acting quickly and consistently on these high-impact steps ensures that energy is invested wisely and progress accelerates. Fifth, integrate habits into your system. Habits are the backbone of any system that converts thought into action. Repetition reduces mental friction and makes initiation automatic. A well-structured system leverages habits strategically, linking new actions to existing routines. For example, meditating immediately after brushing your teeth or journaling at the start of each workday. Habit stacking ensures that action requires minimal conscious effort, freeing cognitive resources for more complex decisions. Sixth, include contingency plans. Systems are resilient because they anticipate obstacles, identify common points of friction or disruption, and plan responses in advance. If unexpected events occur, your system provides predefined actions rather than leaving you paralyzed. Contingencies do not eliminate uncertainty, but they reduce the likelihood that obstacles will halt progress entirely. Seventh, create accountability mechanisms. Systems work best when coupled with accountability, either to yourself or others. Public commitments, peer groups, or progress reports provide external pressure that reinforces action. The accountability does not serve as motivation alone. It enforces adherence to the system, ensuring that intentions translate into tangible steps. Eighth, schedule regular reviews and adjustments. Systems must evolve with circumstances, goals, and energy levels. Periodically review performance, identify inefficiencies, and optimize procedures. Only this iterative approach transforms the system from a static framework into a dynamic tool that adapts to your growth and challenges. The system becomes smarter over time, producing better results with less effort. Ninth, leverage energy management within the system. Action is not sustainable without attention to mental, physical, and emotional energy. Align high-focus tasks with periods of peak energy. Integrate micro-actions when energy is lower, and schedule rest strategically. Systems that incorporate energy awareness prevent burnout and maintain consistent performance. Finally, link every thought to an action pathway. The ultimate purpose of a system is to shrink the gap between intention and execution. When you think of an idea, your system should provide a clear, immediate path to act. This reduces hesitation and prevents procrastination and ensures that progress is continuous. Ideas stop accumulating in your mind and begin producing measurable results. When all these elements, goal mapping, triggers, feedback loops, prioritization, habits, contingencies, accountability, iterative reviews, energy alignment, and action pathways are integrated, the system becomes self-reinforcing. Action produces momentum, momentum generates confidence, confidence reduces fear. Reduced fear increases willingness to act. Repeated action strengthens habits. Habits create consistency. Consistency builds results. This is the ultimate transformation. Thoughts no longer remain static, floating in uncertainty. They become kinetic, flowing through a structured system that channels energy, focus, and decision-making into purposeful movement. The system converts intention into execution, hesitation into momentum, and ideas into results. By designing a robust system, you externalize the logic of action. You no longer rely on fluctuating willpower or motivation. You rely on a reliable, repeatable framework. Over time, this system becomes your second nature, a living infrastructure that ensures ideas are acted upon consistently, efficiently, and strategically. In the end, the ability to convert thought into action is not a matter of chance. It is a matter of design, When you build the right system, you create an environment where ideas naturally flow into progress and action becomes inevitable. Every thought has a path. Every intention has movement, and every goal becomes attainable.